Testing. What up, boys? Alright, this is gonna be shit, what should we do first? Let's do key bindings and general UI. I'll try and keep it short. But yeah, just to kind of convey my thoughts with regards to key binding in BFA. So I've basically done an overhaul of my binds. I didn't plan to, but I've done an overhaul of my binds. So that now I have basically my damaging abilities and my healing abilities on like 1 to 5. Like all the spammable shit and the stuff you use, like your core abilities that you play the game with. And the reason I've done that is because before I had the damaging abilities on like ZXC or shit like that, and it was just all spread out. Solace was on 5. It was a mess. So I've just moved that all kind of together. It's also where the heals are, so I can switch between going offensive and defensive really quickly because I have target arena 1 to 3 on F1 to 3. So it's all really close together and a lot cleaner than how it was before. You know, there's less hand movement involved in doing stuff. So that means I can spend more time focusing on what's happening in the game. So I'm pretty happy with that. Changed a couple of other things, but yeah, generally my cooldowns are now on like ZXCV. Dispel is on F, Dispel Self is on Shift F. Oh, that's another thing. So I got Dispel Self on Shift F, Shield Self on Shift 1, and Mend Self on Shift 4. And I have Help Harm macros on all those. So I will have Shield on 1. Let me go to the target damage real quick to show you. So I got Shield Self on 1, and then I've got Dot also on 1, depending on if I'm targeting an enemy or not. And what I also have is if I'm targeting an enemy, I can just press Shift and 1, and it will still shield myself instead of dotting. And same for Mend. Targeting an enemy, Smite. Targeting a player, Mend. Targeting a goat, Mend. Targeting nothing, Mend. Same thing for shield if I'm targeting nothing. So it's basically shield unless I'm targeting something that's an enemy, and then it's offensive. And obviously you can still do the Shift 4 and it will mend if you're wanting to keep your target on the enemy, which is necessary sometimes. Then we got Penance. Penance an enemy, which is just standard. I can't remember if I made this Penance bind yet. Yep, I did. So targeting an enemy and pressing Shift 2 again will Penance myself, which is pretty versatile. So I'm pretty happy with that. Then we got Schism on 3, which you won't always use, but it's handy to have. It's again all close together. Solace on 5. My cooldowns for Dark Arc and Light are on Z and X. And then we have Barrier on C, or Luminous if you've got that. And I've also got a macro that when I press Shift when I'm barriering, it will actually do it on top of me. So I don't have to worry so much about the mouse, which is nice and handy. And again, I have the same thing for Master Spell. If I Shift V, well, I'll do it like this. So mouse is over here, Master Spell's on myself. So maybe it's necessary sometimes. It can be quicker. Maybe it saves me something. It's not a huge deal, but it's just nice to have. Then I have Fear on T as usual. Knock on Shift T. I've moved that to something a little easier to press because positioning is important with Knock. It's not optimal, but I haven't found anything better for Knock yet, so it's a work in progress. Still need a bind for Evangelism for PvE. I'll find something for that, and also Shadow Covenant needs something as well. You is not going to be its bind. It's going to be on something else. I'm not sure what yet. Nothing else changed really. Desperate Prayer on Shift D. The reasoning for that is off global. So if I want to trinket Desperate Prayer real quick, I can just go like Shift R, Shift D. It's pretty much instant. So that's a lot nicer than what I've had it on in the past. So yeah, that's pretty much all the binds. Oh yeah, I moved Feather as well. Feather is now on S, and Shift S is Feather Self. Instead of D, I had it on D before. I've moved it to S now so that I can strafe both ways while still using Feather at the same time with my middle finger. And then obviously if I want to use it while running forward, I can just Shift S. It's on cooldown. Good. while holding both mouse buttons down. So that's the binds. I'm sure you're wondering what the macros are. So what I'll do is I'll link another video at the end of this one that's dedicated to all my macros, so you can just go straight to that. So that this one isn't too bloated and has, you know, relevant information in, and you guys can find it easily. So that's bindings. Now binding locations are also significant. You'll notice that some stuff is just like peppered around all over the place. So what I've generally done is I have like defensive cooldowns roughly in the same area. Then I have like CC here, dispels together, important cooldowns on the top row, random stuff with no cooldown over here, damage and heals kind of over here, and I've just clustered stuff together that's kind of related to each other, so that when I'm checking, you know, the cooldown of one thing, my peripheral vision is going to see, you know, a bunch of other stuff as well. Whereas if I pepper it around all over the place, I'm not going to get as much information when I'm looking down to check a cooldown of something, and I want to be doing that as little time as possible. So the more cooldowns I see when I'm looking down at something to check it, the more knowledge I have, and the fewer times I have to do it, so I can spend more time looking at the game and watching what other people are doing. So that's my logic and reasoning behind placing things in this way. I've seen other people also rebind, like make a macro and bind the tool, make the tooltip, sorry, in the macro of spammable spells into stuff that's a cooldown. So there's like, you have like 3 of a cooldown or something like that, so that it's easier to glance, you know, not so heavily at it and see what the cooldown is. I prefer doing it this way because I feel like I have too many things to do that reliably. This may change in the future, I don't know. Maybe I'll pull some of this across here and add some extra cooldowns in, we'll see. Maybe fear, dispel, probably important ones to do that with. I'm not sure what else, but yeah, it could be worth. So definitely something to think about. Other aspects of the UI, I guess, are the add-ons that I'm using. I will actually link a image under the video, that will be basically my UI all labeled up, so you know what everything is and what add-on everything is. At the moment I'm using S-Arena for my arena frames. I'm using big debuffs to basically highlight when somebody's in fear and whatnot, something dispellable, like slightly larger than the raid frames that I'm using. I'm using the Blizzard raid frames because they show atonement better than the party frames. And I'm using OmniCC because it's, for me at the moment, ideally if you're looking to compete and stuff, you don't want it, but I think it's a very good tool for actually learning what stuff is, and you know, learning the game and when people do certain stuff, as opposed to just being completely oblivious to something being used. So that's the reason for that. And then I have Trophy GCD down here for the stream, but as I said, I'll link an image and it'll be very self-explanatory. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say on this. Oh yes, details down here, by the way, if you're wondering. That's everything I have to say on this, and yeah, I'll add a little link to the macro stuff because that'll be a little bit longer. So we'll do that in another video. Anyway, cheers for watching. Hopefully it was useful, and see you later. A quick side note, just remembered now, pretty useful thing that I found. If you're feeling like the game is a little bit laggy, you can go here, you can go to advanced, and you can do reduce input lag and enable that shit. I've always had this enabled. I feel like it makes the game a lot more responsive and a lot smoother to play. If you don't have this enabled, then that might be why. Some people it does nothing for, others it helps and does huge amounts for. Myself in the past, I've definitely been able to feel like if I've gone to a tournament or something, I've definitely been able to feel when this is not on. So give it a go, see what you think.